half of Cooley Law School graduates just failed the bar exam based on recent ABA data just published from 2025. Cooley's first time bar passage rate is 51.45%, which means that nearly half of all students who graduated from Cooley last year failed the bar on their first try. The American Bar Association actually published a list of 6 law schools that just dropped below the bar passage requirements to remain accredited. Cooley is just one of them. If you're applying to law school right now, you've got to know the other 5 names, and you've got to know what this data actually means for you and how to make sure you don't end up at a law school that's about to lose accreditation. Now, today I'm going to name all 6 law schools that the ABA just dropped below their accreditation floor. I'm going to show you the 3 numbers every law school applicant should pull on every law school they're considering. The good news is these numbers are public, they're free, and almost nobody looks at them. I'm also going to share with you one email you can send to any law school admissions office, and their reply or lack of one is going to tell you whether the law school has a real plan for getting you past the finish line, helping you pass the bar. For quick context, the ABA is the American Bar Association. They are the organization that accredits law schools, and they publish a giant spreadsheet every year listing every law school's bar passage rate. The most recent list came out 2 weeks ago. You might have saw the headline out of New York last month. The February 2026 bar exam pass rate was only 41%. Now, what you got to know for context there is that 41 isn't every U.S. law school grad. February bar exam takers are a smaller pool. It's heavy on retakers and lawyers who trained outside the U.S. The ABA grad number in New York was 77%, but that's an average. Stanford Law School, their 2025 first-time bar passage rate was 99.43%. 175 out of 176 students passed. Yale, Duke, Harvard, SMU, and Texas all ranging 97 to 98% bar passage rate. So basically, if you go to one of those law schools, you're virtually guaranteed to pass the bar. But look at the bottom of the same list in the same year from the same ABA data. Cooley, approximately half. Appalachian School of Law, 54.76% bar passage rate. DC, 57.89% bar passage rate. In New York specifically, Toro Law sits at only 67.86%. The state average in New York is 87%. So Toro grads pass the bar exam 19 points below the state average. CUNY Law's bar passage rate is 69.04% in the same state. Again, almost 18 points below the average. And before you think to yourself, well, I would never go to one of those law schools, I want you to stay with me because there are over 40 law schools with first-time bar passage rates below 75%. You might be considering some of them without even realizing it. Now, the schools at the bottom of the list are often the same schools sending you the most aggressive scholarship offers right now. In other words, they got to fill seats, so they're offering more scholarship money. They're giving you a lot more nice email messages. They're telling you that you're special. They might fly you out for the weekend. And then 3 years later, you're in a hotel ballroom in Albany, writing a 6-hour exam on 3 hours of sleep. Now, this is not Suits. There's no Harvey Specter waiting in to save your career. This is you alone in a chair with a stack of essays you got to write in 90 minutes. And the school that recruited you so hard prepared roughly only half of the students to actually do this job. And failing the bar is beyond embarrassing. You walk out of 3 years of law school with a JD that you can't use. I mean, most law-adjacent jobs require you to be admitted to the bar. And every year that you delay, your classmates are pulling ahead. Now, I'm not telling you to turn down a scholarship, but look at the school's ROI based on the ABA data before you accept the offer of admission. Now, the ABA has a regulation called Standard 316. Every accredited law school has to maintain an ultimate bar passage rate of at least 75% within 2 years of graduation. Ultimate means everybody who eventually passes, whether it's their first, second, third, fourth attempt. As long as you pass the bar within 2 years, you're good. Now, 75% is the floor. If a law school drops below that, they are out of compliance. The ABA can put the school on notice. In extreme cases, they can yank accreditation, meaning the school can't operate anymore. Then this year, 6 schools dropped below the line. They are Southern University Law School in Louisiana, Cooley, Florida A&M, University of the District of Columbia, Barry University in Florida, and Inter-American University of Puerto Rico. And I've done deep dives on these schools before, but they are the riskiest, they are the worst law schools. I would consider them to be in the country, not worth going to even at a full ride. And you can look up the data yourself in the law school's 509 report. Now, the next time the ABA puts out this list in about a year from now, there's a good chance it's going to be a longer list, even though law school apps are at an all-time high, maybe especially because of that. Because we're looking at the most competitive law school cycle in decades. Applicants are up year over year, over year again. They're up over the past 2 years, roughly 25%, which means that schools that used to accept you at a 165 LSAT are now waitlisting you. The schools that used to give you a half scholarship at 168 are now giving you nothing. Now, the schools at the bottom of the bar passage chart, they just had their best applicant pool in a decade, so they're going to fill their classes. Now, in past years, a lot of those applicants would have gone to better law schools, but they couldn't last year because this cycle is brutal. And so they're showing up at schools that have a track record of their students failing the bar. In 3 years, the new people entering will sit for the bar, and whichever ones don't pass count against that school's ultimate bar passage rate. So for context, when I took the LSAT for the first time, I scored a 152. A 152 in 2026 puts you at schools whose first-time bar passage rates run in the 50s and 60s. The schools at the bottom of that ABA chart I was just sharing with you. And so I studied and studied. I worked through every official LSAT practice test, went deep on logical reasoning, went deep on reading comp, ultimately got my score up to a 175, opened you up to the top law schools like Stanford, Yale, Harvard, Duke, schools where 98 to 99% of students pass the bar on their first try. So that gap is the gap between a 51% shot at passing and a 99% shot at passing. Same person, different score, different life. Now, I'm not saying you need to have a 175. Most people don't. That's not the point. The point is that every point you add to your LSAT score is a point that buys you access to schools that don't fail their grads on the bar. And so if you're sitting at a 152 or a 158 or a 161, whatever, and you're about to deposit at a law school that will take you because you're tired and you want to be done with this, I want you to think again. Take the LSAT again, retake it 2, 3, 4 times if you got it, because the score that you get will determine the next 3 years of your life and determine the trajectory of your entire legal career. Now, you can look up the stats for any of the law schools I mentioned, Barry in Texas, Florida A&M, Cooley, University of DC, and so on. Every law school publishes a 509 report. That is a document the ABA forces them to put out every single year. It's called Standard 509 Required Disclosures. You could find it for free. You look at it, you find the bar passage section. You're looking for 3 things. Thing number 1 is their first-time bar passage rate. What percentage of last year's grads passed the bar exam on the first try? The national average in 2025 was 84.1%. So that's your benchmark. If a school's in the 90s, that's great. If they're in the 80s, that's okay. 70s, ask some questions. 50s or 60s, you want to walk the other way. Number 2, ultimate bar passage rate. Basically, the number that eventually clear the bar, including retakes within 2 years of graduating. Then number 3 is the state pass rate average. As a benchmark, a 60% pass rate in California means something totally different than a 60% pass rate in Wisconsin because different states have different bar exams. Some are harder than others. California has the hardest bar exam in the country. And so schools there post lower numbers because the test is brutal, not because the school is necessarily bad. In Wisconsin, graduates from in-state schools don't even take the bar exam at all. They have something called diploma privilege. So compare the school that you're looking at against the state average within that state. If they're more than 10 points below the state average, that's a yellow flag. If they're 15 below, that's a red flag. 20 below, again, go the other way, turn around, don't consider it. Now, some schools will say to you that bar passage comes down to the student. A smart, hardworking student can pass anywhere, and that's partially true, but that's also in their interest to say. If a school's pass rate runs below 20%, the state average year over year, that's not a coincidence. The system is failing the students it was meant to serve. Now, I wanted to talk about the email that you should send admissions. If you've already gotten in somewhere and you're choosing between law schools, again, pull the 509 reports, then ask the school, can you share with me your academic support and bar prep program for students in the bottom half of the class? If they can tell you there's a specific program with named staff and the number of hours they're putting into it per week, where in the curriculum it starts, what the outcomes are, that's great. If they just give you a glossy paragraph with vague superlatives, that's your answer. That means they don't really have a plan. They don't really care. And of course, by definition, half the people in the class are going to be in the bottom half, and everyone thinks they're not going to be there, but half of them are wrong. And so the question is, if you're in that bottom half, does the school have a real plan for you, or are they just going to take your money? Now remember, different schools, very different outcomes. Stanford grads pass the bar at 99%. Cooley grads pass the bar at 51%. It's a 48-point gap. In the same year, in the same country, where you go to school does make a big difference in terms of your outcomes, in terms of getting into better law, in terms of bar passage rates, employment outcomes, the scholarships that you get, the debt that you take on. If you want my help getting the highest possible LSAT score so that you will end up with better outcomes, I'm here to help you out. I'm offering free LSAT tutoring for everybody watching this now or later. The link to book that free tutoring lesson with me is unpluggedprep.com/start. The link is below the video on YouTube, pinned in the chat on YouTube, in my bio on TikTok and IG as well. I'm also offering a free easy LSAT cheat sheet to help you jumpstart your LSAT prep. The link to grab that is unpluggedprep.com/cheat sheet. The link is also below the video in the chat in my bio as well. Happy to answer any and all questions, anything LSAT and law school admissions. Feel free to drop your questions in the chat. I'll get to as many as I can. So Mike, feel free to drop them in. Eli, feel free to drop them in as well. Elizabeth is asking, 520 on the MCAT, 1,000 CNA hours, 1.2 GPA, Harvard Law. We're doing LSAT here, pre-law, law school admissions. So MCAT, I don't know if that's good or bad. I don't know the MCAT. Yeah, we want LSAT scores for law school. Hums is asking, if LSAT's more important, will 173 LSAT balance a 3.1 GPA? To some extent, yeah. I mean, the thing is that 3.1 GPA is way below the medians. 173 is somewhat above the medians, depending on the law school that you're targeting. And so we got to look at what kind of law schools you're looking at. For T14, that 3.1 GPA is going to tank your odds. You got to be way, way higher on the LSAT, like 178, to balance out that lower GPA. But for a top 50 schools, the 3.1 GPA won't kill you, and the 173 LSAT's still pretty good. Monveer is asking, do internships in summer, junior, undergrad help in law school admissions? I mean, internships can always help. Work experience is always nice, but it's really about your LSAT score and your GPA. Internships don't really matter a whole lot. They're a nice to have, not a requirement, and not going to make or break you. I would say until you've locked in your LSAT score, don't be thinking about internships. If you have them, but it could be worthwhile to just spend your summer studying for the LSAT and not intern if it's going to get you a higher score. Oh, this is good. So 6922 is asking, is law school worth it for someone who doesn't really want to do it? No. If you don't want to do it, then of course it's not worth it. Why would you do that? Why are you here? Why are you thinking about law school if you don't want to do it? I mean, there's a million other things you could be doing. I mean, if you do want to go to law school, I'm happy to help you out. But if you don't want to go to law school, then I don't want to help you go there because that's not what you want to do. There are a million other things that you could be doing, and there are folks who are here because they want to be here, and that's great. If I can help you get a higher LSAT score and help you get into law school, then let's go for it. But if you want to go to med school, you want to go into engineering, you want to go into AI, you want to go backpack around the world, for all I care, go and do it. I mean, what are your career goals? I'm guessing that you're here for a reason. Have you expressed interest in pre-law stuff before, so the algorithm's sending you my way? But if it's because your parents want you to do it, but you don't want to do it, it's your life. Listen, I mean, I understand wanting to make them happy, but they love you and they'll be proud of you no matter what you do, right? So find something else that can serve you and serve them. There are many ways to make a living, many ways to have a fulfilling life. And for some people, that is law. For others, it is not law, and that's okay. Manveer is asking, should I do the LSAT during undergrad or after undergrad? That's up to you. I mean, if you want to go straight from undergrad into law school, then yeah, you want to do LSAT during undergrad, but consider that you also don't want to tank your GPA. So think about how can you study for the LSAT while maintaining a good GPA. That might mean you study for the LSAT over the summer when you don't have anything else going on. It might mean that you study for the LSAT during a relatively lighter semester where you have fewer courses so that you can put in time for the LSAT prep. Your LSAT score is good for 5 years regardless, and law schools don't care when you took it, they just care that you get the score. Now, the benefit of studying for the LSAT during undergrad or immediately after undergrad is that you're still in more of an academic mindset. Once you finish with the LSAT and once you finish undergrad and you're working for a couple of years, it can be harder to get back into this. B is asking, if I have a 3.6 GPA, what should my target LSAT score be for a T14? Do you recommend a gap year? Okay, so I would always target a 180. No reason to shoot for anything less. Why would you not aim to understand everything and get a perfect score? Now, for T14 specifically, to talk harder numbers in terms of what you need, the top 14 law school LSAT medians are 170 to 174. The GPA medians range from 392 to 399. And so with a 3.6 GPA, you are below on the GPA by over 0.3. So we want to balance out that lower GPA with a relatively higher LSAT score to compensate. So I'd want your LSAT to be above a 174 to maximize your odds of getting it. I see Hassan is saying, I have got a 176, no classes under my belt that are pre-law per se, biology major. So 176, if you got that on your official LSAT, you're good on that side. I would try to have a high GPA or get that GPA up if you can. I know it's harder to do that when you're in science, when you're a biology major, many cases, but if you're still an undergrad, try to raise it up, but you don't need pre-law classes necessarily. Law schools don't care what you majored in. You can major in literally anything and go to law school. Now, Melo's asking, what about a 3.8 GPA from UCLA? But my major is fairly easy, sociology. Okay, so 3.8 GPA is great. The crazy thing about law school admissions is that in terms of GPA, they don't care where you earned it. They don't care what you majored in. So if you are being ruthless about law school admissions, there is an argument to be made that you want to take easier classes where you can get easy A's versus taking classes that are more brutally curved. I don't think that's right or fair, but that's just how the system is. So if you took the easy classes in sociology, for example, which I see you mentioned there, then you're pretty good on the GPA. I mean, it could be a little bit higher, of course, but you're pretty good on that overall. I'd say just match a great GPA with a great LSAT score. I see A is asking, can I get away with a bad LSAT essay with a 4.0 GPA? So if by LSAT essay you mean the writing sample, that's unscored. Doesn't matter. I mean, don't treat it like a joke, but don't spend time studying for that if you haven't mastered the scored portions of the LSAT, which are what really matters. So if you're asking, can I get a lower LSAT score given the 4.0 GPA? I mean, maybe, but why? Why would you not work to achieve your fullest potential on the LSAT given the importance of the LSAT score? I mean, a 4.0 GPA is great, of course, and it can help to offset a lower LSAT score, but law schools weigh your LSAT score more heavily than your undergraduate GPA. So if you were to get a 175 LSAT combined with that 4.0 GPA, you could get into a lot of top law schools. And I think that would be an incredible outcome, and there's no reason not to shoot for it. I see a lot of other questions coming in here. I'll get to as many as I can, folks. I'm just trying to answer them thoroughly as well. I see B was asking about a gap year. Would you recommend a gap year between undergrad and law school? Depends what you do with that gap year. If you're confident law school is what you want to do and you have your applications ready in time, I'd say just go. Don't waste any time, because another year on the other end of having the GA, working as an attorney, making better salary, that might be a better way to go versus another year in the status quo. But let's say if you're not sure whether it's right for you, or you want to have one last hurrah and go backpacking or something during a gap year, then go do that. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity. If you want to spend that year studying for the LSAT, getting that number up, you could also spend it that way too. So do whatever you feel that you're called to do on that. Law school is not going anywhere if you need some time to figure out whether it's right for you. Mike asks, do you suggest heavy diagramming? No. Back when logic games were on the LSAT, yeah, but they're no longer on the LSAT, haven't been on the LSAT for almost 2 years. And most of logical reasoning is informal logic. So diagramming is not really the way to solve virtually most questions. And so I would say focus on understanding the argument. Diagramming is not a substitute for thinking. It's not going to be a magic unlock for you. Cosmo asks, how do I make myself more competitive if I have a 175 LSAT, but a 3.6 GPA from a top 10 law school. So your LSAT's fantastic. Well done on that. 3.6 GPA's good, but not great, depending, just because of rampant grade inflation. In terms of what else you could do at this stage, I mean, there's the soft factors, rec letters, application essays, resume, work experience, internships. All of that can play a role. You could retake the LSAT if you think you could get a couple points higher. Might not be a bad idea, but worth considering. If your bachelor's degree is a done deal, then that's that, but some folks will take additional community college classes to help boost the GPA. Just scanning through for more questions here. Bell's asking, when is the appropriate time to take the writing sample? So the writing sample opens up 8 days before the official LSAT sitting, and you've got to do the writing sample before they release your score. So if you're taking the LSAT in June, for example, it's going to open up in a couple weeks for June LSAT test takers. I typically recommend knocking out the LSAT first, taking a day or two off, then switching gears and focusing on the writing sample, just because until you take the official LSAT, the score is what matters. So focus all your energies on getting that score first and foremost. Then take a day or two off because you just deserve it. You want to decompress it a little bit, then circle back to it. But don't delay too long because LSAC will not release your score until you have completed the writing sample. And every single administration, there are folks who are waiting on their scores because they didn't do the writing sample and everyone else has their scores and they don't, and that's not a great situation to be in. Fred's asking, or Fredeha's asking, what is the deal with grade inflation and score inflation? Why? Well, that's a fun one. I don't know if anyone's been following the news, but there's a bit of a debate going on at Harvard University right now around the rampant grade inflation there. They're considering taking some steps to curb all the easy A's that are being given out there. And the problem is that if Harvard takes action, then their graduates are at a disadvantage relative to other Ivy Leagues because when they're applying for jobs, Harvard students would have fewer A's, lower GPAs as a consequence. So grade inflation is out of control at elite universities because professors are in part scared of their students and because there are a lot of folks taking humanities courses that give out easy A's. I know this because I majored in poli-sci, I took a lot of sociology classes, and I experienced some of those easy A's, and then I experienced the contrast where in, say, econ or STEM classes, you don't have easy A's and your GPA suffers. So professors are giving out easy A's left and right at a lot of elite universities, and so that's leading to GPA inflation. Then in terms of the LSAT, there are also a couple of factors leading to LSAT score inflation, including increased retaking of the LSAT when only the highest score counts, the LSAT being offered more frequently, so there's more chances to retake, and then there is the rise in LSAC granting accommodations for extra time on the LSAT. And so those are some of the factors leading to LSAT score inflation. The consequence of all this is that the LSAT medians continue to rise and the GPA medians also continue to rise, meaning that it becomes harder to get into law school because you keep needing to raise the numbers that you have in order to apply and be competitive. So the requirements for LSAT and GPA keep going up. And so as a consequence, you just got to get higher LSAT score, higher GPA to compensate. And if your GPA is lower than you would have liked it to be, that's unfortunate, but you can still compensate for that with a higher LSAT score. Dala asks, does it matter what you get your bachelor's degree in? I'm getting mine in healthcare management. No, it doesn't matter. You can major in literally anything and go to law school. There are no prerequisites or particular requirements. Uza Rose asking, should I go for a PhD in poli-sci or go to law school? Those are very different career paths, and I can't give you the answer on which one you should do. I would think about what do you feel more called to do, and can you talk to people in each area and see what they have to say about the professional prospects. My understanding is that academia is pretty rough right now. A lot of the tenure track positions have been eliminated, and it's quite competitive to get a professorship. And so I would tread carefully there. Not saying that law school or lawyering is a walk in the park either, but I suspect the legal profession has better employment opportunities and a wider range of what you can do with a JD versus a PhD. As a plus, the JD path is shorter. It's 3 years versus PhD being who knows how long. Nafsa Hoda is asking, is 1 year enough time to get a 175 if your diagnostic is a 140? Oh yeah, I mean, you can get a significant score increase and get a top LSAT score in just 3 to 6 months. Shouldn't have to take an entire year. It took me an entire year to get my 175, but at least half of that was a complete waste of time. If I had done it properly, I could have knocked it out in just a couple of months because the LSAT is all about pattern recognition. If you can spot the tricks and traps, you can avoid them. It all comes down to understanding how the test makers think and seeing it from their perspective. And if you're looking for support with your LSAT prep, I put together a free, easy LSAT cheat sheet to help you jumpstart your LSAT prep. You can grab that quick reference cheat sheet PDF at unpluggedprep.com/cheat sheet. I'm also offering a free LSAT tutoring lesson, private one-on-one, to help you jumpstart your LSAT prep. During that free tutoring, we look at where you're currently at, what your goal is, what your time frame is, and we help you map out an action plan to get you from your starting point to your goal LSAT score between now and whenever you want to take the LSAT, whether it's August or September or October or November. If you're taking the LSAT in June or in August, we'll take a more boot camp style approach with live coaching at least a couple times a week. If you're taking it in 4 to 6 months, we'll take a more of a slow and steady approach. We always personalize the program to the student. It's not a one size fits all because every student's got a different goal, a different time frame, different number of hours they could study per day and per week. And so we always customize the program to the student. If you want to talk through the particulars, you could book the free tutoring with me and we'll talk through it more. Melocrime's asking, can I take the LSAT during a gap year? Thinking of taking a gap between my junior and senior year? Yeah, you can. I mean, your LSAT score is good for 5 years. You could take it whenever you're ready. The best time to take the LSAT is when you are ready to take it, when you're scoring close to your goal, if not above your goal, and when you have the time to study leading up to that test. And so if you're a sophomore in college, by all means, go for it. If you're a junior, go for it. Freshman year is probably too early. If you're a freshman or you're in high school, I'd say focus on college, just focus on understanding or doing well in college, enjoying that, maintaining a high GPA, and then take the LSAT in a year or two. It's not going anywhere. If you want to take it after college, that's fine too. While you're still in an academic mindset, that's totally fine. Your score is good for 5 years, and law schools won't care when you took it, just what score that you get at the end of the day. In terms of what LSAT score you need for scholarship money, that depends on the particular law school that you're targeting. Each law school has its own requirements in terms of what it takes to get in and what it takes to get scholarship money. The numbers that you need are relative to the medians of the law schools that you're targeting, and there are approximately 200 American Bar Association accredited law schools in the country. Some are harder to get into than others. Some are easier to get scholarship money from than others. Harvard and Yale, for example, do not give out merit aid for scholarships, but the other T14 law schools do, like Stanford, Columbia, Cornell, NYU. They will give you scholarship money if your numbers are sufficiently strong. And then for all the other law schools as well, it's even easier to get scholarship money. As a general rule of thumb, I would say if your LSAT and GPA medians are above the 75th percentile of the law schools that you're targeting, you're pretty likely to get significant scholarship money, maybe even a full ride, which could save you 6 figures on your law school tuition. It's the easiest money that you're ever going to make. And it's easier if your GPA is strong. If your GPA is not so strong, though, that's okay. You can offset a lower GPA with a higher LSAT score. So consider the strength of your GPA. And then if it's weak, get an even higher LSAT. If it's strong, maybe you don't need as high an LSAT, but of course, the higher the LSAT, the better you'll do. And the thing is that your GPA is probably pretty fixed at this point in time, but your LSAT score, you can improve significantly. It's 1 day, 2.5 hours, weighs more heavily than all of undergrad combined, which is kind of crazy, but I didn't design the system. I just help you navigate it. And so it is what it is. And now in terms of what is strong, strong is always relative to the law school that you're targeting. Each law school has its own unique requirements because their medians are different year to year from school to school. And so for any law school that you want to go to, just look up their American Bar Association 509 report, and that will give you a good sense of the kind of members that you need in order to be competitive. August 10 says, it makes me sad that when I graduated 7 years ago, my GPA was at the median for top schools. Now it's below median. Feels like the goalposts shifted. Yeah, they did shift. It's real. I mean, that comes back to the LSAT score inflation and the GPA inflation as well. Grade inflation is real, LSAT inflation is real. And so the numbers keep rising every single year. And so the best time to apply was maybe 7 years ago. The second best time is today. It's only going to get worse because grade inflation is not stopping. LSAT inflation is not stopping either. And so I imagine that 7 years from now, it'll be even more competitive. It's already kind of crazy. I mean, the T14 law schools, their LSAT medians are 170 to 174. The GPA medians are 392 to 399. And so when I tell somebody a 3.7 GPA is good but not great, I hate saying that because a 3.7 should be outstanding. But because the bar has risen, it's not as great as it used to be. And so you've just got to have even higher numbers to compensate. I see another question here asking, do you think the current trends in law school admissions suggest that now is a better time than in previous years for non-traditional applicants, despite trends in grade inflation? I mean, things are really competitive right now. Law school applications are up year over year, 2 years in a row. So you have 25% more applicants now than 2 years ago. So I think it's only gotten more competitive. And that's part of why we're seeing such long delays in terms of hearing back from law schools. Those who are applying this past cycle are still waiting in many cases. So I don't think this is a better time. We'll see if it gets worse or if it slows down a little bit. But I think it's a uniquely competitive time right now, unfortunately, just because of the surge in number of people applying. And that's for anybody non-traditional or traditional. If there's one thing that's a silver lining, it's that there are more online programs than there used to be. And so if you're a non-traditional applicant, you have more online options available to you for attending law school than you did in the past. The American Bar Association continues to approve online and hybrid JD programs. And so you have more options than you used to in terms of being able to attend law school online without needing to relocate. The issue, though, is that there are very few seats available in these programs, even though they are online, because these programs are new, they are experimental, and the ABA is only giving them provisional accreditation in many cases, and so they want to maintain good outcomes, and so they're kind of testing the waters with this. So keep in mind that when you apply to an online program, it is harder to get in than the general stats for that school might indicate because they are not separated out or broken down by online versus in person. Stokely asks, I'm an engineer. Should I keep working through my schooling? Well, when you're going to law school full-time, they technically do not allow you to work during law school because they don't want your grades to suffer and because law school is so demanding that you're not going to have time to work while you're in law school. You can work during a part-time program, though. And as for whether you should, the question is, do you need to based on your personal financial situation? Again, for full-time law school, they don't let you with good reason. I wouldn't try to go around that sort of rule. For part-time law school, though, you can. The question is if you need to based on your personal financials in order to maintain income for maintaining quality of life. And so if you have a significant other or family who can help support you during that time, I think it's better not to work if you can, just because law school will take up your time. Even part-time, it's still a big obligation. But if you can navigate it or you need to navigate it, then that's what you got to do. I'm just scanning through for other questions here. PVO asks, what score should my friend strive to get if she wants to get into a top 10 law school? 174 plus. In other words, above the medians of the T14 to maximize odds of getting in. And again, why not aim for a 180? Aim for a perfect score, aim to understand everything. GPA does play a role too. If your friend has a GPA above 3.9, then that's also going to help a lot, but most people don't. So regardless, aim for the highest possible LSAT. And if your friend wants help, of course, I'm offering the free LSAT tutoring, the free cheat sheet linked below the video in the chat in my bio. I also do these lives every single weekday, same time, same place, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 Central, 11 Pacific, here on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, wherever you're watching this. Now or later, if you find these helpful, please spread the word. The only way this grows is through word of mouth. I don't do any advertising for these lives, and the algorithm doesn't really boost them because they can't run ads during them, and the LSAT's kind of a niche topic, so I do appreciate your sharing this in any groups you're part of. It really does help. I see Braun is asking, is there a knowledge gap between a low 170 score and a high 170 score? At that point, it's not about knowledge in terms of fundamentals or theory. It's more application under severely timed conditions, or maybe those level 4, level 5 questions, the subtle nuances and tricks and traps. It's more familiarity with less common patterns. And so there are certain methods of reasoning that are really common on the LSAT, like correlation causation, confusing necessary and sufficient conditions, conditional reasoning. I think that a lot of folks studying for the LSAT are familiar with those concepts, but then there are some more nuanced, more subtle, less common types of reasoning that show up only here and there, not as frequently. And so the top score has done enough studying to be familiar with even those less common types of reasoning, whereas the lower 170 score maybe hasn't had as much exposure. And so part of what separates low from high is more familiarity with less common types of reasoning, which requires a much higher volume of exposure to all the tricks and traps of the test. And so it's kind of like doing 20 exams versus doing 60 exams. There is a diminishing marginal return as you do more and more work and get into higher and higher score bands, but there are also big rewards in terms of being a 175 plus LSAT scorer versus a 170. That does make a big difference. And so might be just requiring you to put in a whole lot more work to get a few more points, but those few more points could make the difference depending on where you want to go. But I don't think it's knowledge. I think it's execution and increased familiarity, again, with doing a much larger volume of exams. So for those of you studying for the LSAT, don't rely on only the free exams or only a prep book here and there. On the LSAC Law Hub Advantage platform, you get 59 numbered exams, numbered 101 to 159 in the modern LSAT format. Don't rely on those old out-of-date prep books that still talk about logic games. That is a version of the test that no longer exists. Get the updated materials for 2026. The LSAT's not on paper anymore. It is online, so study like it's going to be online using the official LSAT practice test. The problem is that the LSAT doesn't come with explanations. There's nobody that you could talk to or get feedback from. And so if you want some more personal support, again, I'm offering the free LSAT tutoring for everybody watching this now or later. The link to book that free tutoring with me is unpluggedprep.com/start. The link is below the video on YouTube, pinned in the chat on YouTube, in my bio on TikTok and IG as well. That is an open offer for everybody watching this now or later. You can also grab that free easy LSAT cheat sheet if you haven't already. Happy to help you out. I'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place, 2 p.m. Eastern, 1 Central, 11 Pacific. I'll see you all then. In the meantime, all the best. Take care. Thanks for joining.